Hello, everybody out there. Welcome. This is a little bit of a guinea pig situation for all of us. This is the first time we have hosted a webinar from MBU. Most of us have attended webinars put on by other people, but this is the first time we have done it. And as you can tell, we had a few little technical difficulties, but I want to thank everybody who has joined us. Thank you for coming out in the rain digitally. I know that always is a bit of a slowdown when the weather is a problem in Miami Beach, but because it's digital, not so much today. I want to welcome you. This is MBU's first forum of 2020. Thank you very much, COVID. But we are really happy to be able to be doing this. My name is Tanya Bhatt. I'm the president of MBU, and I welcome you all to this event. The purpose of this meeting is to talk about the 6 ballot issues on the election ballot. We're not talking about county or judge issues or state amendment issues or federal election issues. We're just talking about the 6 issues before the City of Miami Beach voters. We are a nonpartisan organization, so we treat everything accordingly. We, as you know, are focused on residents' quality of life, and when we take a look at the initiatives that are put onto the ballot, that is how we evaluate our positions on them. So what we're going to do, once I introduce everybody, is go through the 6 City of Miami Beach ballot questions, explain them, and give you our position on each one, and explain to you what our thinking behind that is. We will go through all of the questions, and then we will open it up to questions from the audience. And we will be monitoring Facebook as well as the webinar itself via Zoom. Again, it's our first time doing this, so please be patient. We will try to make this work as best we can. And again, if there's any technical glitch that I'm not able to sort out, please email us at info@miamibeach.org, and we will respond to your questions that way. So without further ado, I will introduce the panelists. We have Raquel Pacheco, who is a small business owner in Miami Beach, mother of a young child at South Point Elementary. She's been on the board for a year. She does our marketing for us and is also a former candidate for commission. You may remember last year's very exciting and heated election for commissioners. We also have Saul Gross. Saul, you want to wave? Saul Gross is one of the founders of Miami Beach United, actually. He's also a 2-term commissioner and is our treasurer on MBU. He is a real estate developer and has been instrumental in a lot of the preservation that has made the Flamingo Park neighborhood and the Ocean Drive area so unique and special and such a wonderful part of Miami Beach. And last but not least, we have Adam Kravitz. Adam, you want to wave? Adam is our timekeeper. Unlike debates where we have very strict protocol and timing, we have a lot more latitude here, but Adam is going to keep us honest so that we don't get really sidetracked with any of the questions. We don't want to shortchange one question because we spent too much time on any of the others. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Saul, who's going to handle the first set of questions.
Okay, thank you, Tanya. The first 3 questions all have to do with the development at the Miami Beach Marina. And I'm going to tell you what the Miami Beach United resolution and position on these ballot questions are. And basically, the Miami Beach United is recommending a no vote on these 3 ballot items due to the flawed use of the vacation of 25,500 square feet of Alton Road to increase the FAR of this development project. Elected officials have taken it upon themselves to decide the density and size of the tower, which we believe is a misinterpretation of the City of Miami Beach Charter. Although there are 3 ballot questions about the project, we think that a fourth ballot question is missing, which would allow the voters to decide whether the allowable FAR should be increased for this project. Basically, the size of the Alton Road that's being vacated or pretending to be vacated is 50 by 510 square feet, which is 25,500 square feet. And when you apply the 2.5 FAR to that amount of square footage, it means that the development is able to increase the size of the project by 63,750 feet, which is quite a large increase in the size of the project, all without voter approval. Under the charter, the ability to increase FAR of a project is reserved to the voters and not to the commission. So it's for that reason that Miami Beach United believes that this question should be on the ballot and should be decided by voters and not by the commission. That's what the charter provides. And we think the commission should follow the charter. We are not opining on the merits of the project or the deal as it's been negotiated, but we do not support the proposed ordinance changes unless the FAR increase upon which this whole project is predicated goes before voters. This is actually the third or fourth time that the City Commission has been pretending to vacate streets to increase the size of a development parcel and to increase the square footage that a developer can build. The first was 5th to 7th on Alton Road, the second up on Ocean Terrace, and this is the third major one. And the size of the increase is the size of a very large building at 67,000 feet, which is probably more than 90% of the buildings in Miami Beach. So that is our position. And we would now, Tanya, you want to move on to questions 4 and on and take questions afterwards? Sorry, move on to ballot items 4, 5, and 6. Raquel, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Tanya, you are muted.
Yes, sorry. So we are now going to move to question number 4. Raquel is going to handle that. Again, we will be taking your questions at the end, so keep track of them and we will get to as many of them as we can. Go ahead, Raquel.
Thank you, Tanya. Okay, so ballot question number 4 is an ordinance authorizing reconstruction of original floor plates within interior of historic buildings. And Miami Beach United recommends a yes vote on this question. Just to give our viewers a little bit of insight, because a lot of people don't understand what FAR and all of that means, I would like to present MBU's very original, concise, and clear definition of FAR. So if you don't mind, I'm going to read this. FAR, or floor area ratio, is the calculation used to determine the maximum of allowable square footage that can be built on a particular plot of land based on the size of that plot and the rules governing how large a building can be in that zone of the city. So for example, if the plot of land is 10,000 square feet and the allowable FAR is 2.0, the developer could build up to 20,000 square feet. So the intent of this ballot question really is to incentivize the restoration of historic buildings throughout the use of FAR. And if approved, this will allow buildings, for example, that were perhaps in the past, started off as a hotel, were torn down from their interior was torn down to, maybe make a club, and now they want to reuse that property, and this would allow them to do that without adding any increases in height. So for that reason, MBU thinks that this is something worth supporting. It incentivizes the restoration of historic buildings without adding heights, and of course it allows for the reuse of these structures. That's all I have on that.
Okay, let me pick up with question 5. This one has to do with increasing the floor area ratio for the Wolfsonian project from 1.5 to 3.25 in a creation of a new Wolfsonian Arts District. And Miami Beach United recommends a yes vote on this item, supporting the proposed expansion of the fabulous Wolfsonian, a cultural anchor and a true gem in the crown of Miami Beach. This facility already borders the troubled MXE district, including Ocean Drive and Washington Avenue, and its expanded footprint will go a long way to increasing the community offerings that could be a critical component of the proposed reimagining of the Ocean Drive, Collins Avenue, Washington Avenue Cultural and Arts District, and help regain control of the city's brand and follow the mayor's lead in positioning the district to be an anchor for cultural and preservation enthusiasts. Miami Beach United feels that the increase in the FAR should have been limited to 3.0 and not increased to 3.25. Increasing the FAR to 3.0 would have provided the Wolfsonian with ample space to expand and still remain within the 3.0 maximum permitted FAR in our zoning code for all properties in the city south of 71st Street. We are a little concerned that approving FARs above 3.0 could set a precedent that future developers will seek to exploit. However, since this upzoning in particular will be limited to a soon-to-be created localized Wolfsonian Arts District and will not be available to any property owner outside the Wolfsonian Arts District, Miami Beach United is supportive of the project. Additionally, in this case, as mandated by the city charter, and perhaps for the first time in the last 15 years, the Miami Beach voters are being asked properly whether they support the increase of the allowable FAR, as should have been done on the Marina Park project at 300 Alton Road. So the FAR will be decided by the voters as the charter requires. And and Miami Beach United feels that the increase is warranted for a worthy not-for-profit cultural and educational institution of the Wolfsonian's caliber. And so Miami Beach United recommends a yes vote on this ballot question.
Okay.
Raquel.
Thank you. And so Raquel, if you want to take the last question, that would be
Yes, the last question is ballot question number 6, which is an ordinance excluding certain areas of a building from the calculation of the floor area. So it's another FAR issue. The areas in question for exclusion are secured bicycle parking spaces, stairwells, elevators located above the main roof decks, electrical transformer vault rooms, and fire control rooms or related life safety equipment. Miami Beach, in accordance with our resolution dated July 29th, recommends a no vote on this. And the reason is that because it's sort of an open-ended attempt to increase the buildable square footage that's currently allowed on a site, and because it doesn't just apply to existing structures, but it's a precedent for all new development going forward. So with that being said, I just want to point to the fact that, the pro argument was that it would allow existing buildings to be renovated, even if the property has no allowable FAR, but it wasn't specific enough to existing structures. And so our concern is that it would set a dangerous precedent for new development. So again, on that alone, Miami Beach United recommends a no vote on ballot question number 6.
And I just want to add on that particular question, we think the intent of it is a worthy intent, but because we've seen sloppy ballot language or imprecise or too broad ballot language get ordinances into trouble in the past where unintended consequences happen, we had actually encouraged the commission to rethink the way they were working on this and wording it so that it could be more specific to the intended goal. So we actually hope the commission does reevaluate and put that back onto the ballot for the purpose as it was intended for the next election next year.
Okay, we ready for questions?
Yeah, sorry, just had a cough, and no, that wasn't COVID, that was just a dry throat. Okay, we have a lot of questions, so that's great. They are in no particular order, so bear with us. And I think that the Facebook live stream, if there's anyone who's trying to watch it or had been trying to watch it on live stream, isn't functioning the way we'd hoped. So we will upload this to the Facebook page when we're done with it. One of our questions is about the Wolfsonian. Will the Wolfsonian structure occupy all of that block and go from Washington to Ocean Drive? Is there any guarantee that this will not happen for other properties?
Okay, let me answer that question. The Wolfsonian project actually will not go beyond Collins Court, which is the alley between Washington Avenue and Collins Avenue. The Wolfsonian project will only be expanded above the 2 lots that the Wolfsonian already owns, on which there are located 3 retail stores. And there is a height limit of 75 feet. And one of the driving factors for why this project is being put forward now is that Wolfsonian has a $10 million grant from Miami-Dade County that's been awarded quite some time ago, almost close to 10 years ago. And the county issued an ultimatum of some sort to the Wolfsonian and said, listen, it's time that you use the grant. And we feel that using a $10 million grant provided by the county would increase the value and attraction of the Wolfsonian and expand its anchor status in the city. But specifically to answer the question, no, the footprint is not going to expand beyond the footprint of the current Wolfsonian property where the museum is and the 2 adjacent lots that have storefronts on them. And there is a specific Wolfsonian arts district that's being created to limit it to that area.
Great, thank
Okay.
you, Saul. We have a question on about question number 6, about whether or not the city did an analysis. Did the city do an analysis showing the impact of the FAR change on small scale historic properties? Because they did not show that to Flamingo Park, if they did. Does anybody recall having seen that?
I don't recall seeing anything related to that, and I really don't have a clear answer on that, whether or not the city did that.
I do recall in our discussions about the resolution, what our position at MBU was going to be was that it ended up being, it could potentially end up being up to about 10 hotel rooms for a newer development. And so that was what sort of gave us pause, thinking that it was perhaps going to be used with unintended consequences. So instead of an older building trying to retrofit and upgrade, it could be used by a new building that's being built to get some additional saleable space in there. So that's where we came to the concern that it was a bit more imprecise than it was probably intended to be. Okay, so let's see, we have some more questions. There were questions on our position on items 1, 2, and 3. One of the questions is whether MBU's position was based on the process and not the project itself. And I can tell you unequivocally, we are not taking a position on the project itself specifically because the FAR did not come before the voters the way it is supposed to per the Miami Beach Charter. The great example of this is that the Wolfsonian is asking for an increase in FAR, which is not insignificant, but it is part of the ballot question, and it is an opportunity for the voters to vote on whether they think that this is a worthy exception to be made, the FAR question. Unfortunately, had there been a 4th question about the Marina project, you could have voted about how the money was going to be used, whether you thought there should be some more FAR being granted, and then the 2 other questions. But because the FAR was not included in a 4th question about that particular project, we chose to not opine on the project itself because the city keeps doing an end run around the charter, which states that Miami Beach voters are supposed to be able to vote on FAR. And then the other question that went along with that was how tall do they want to make the new building? Um,
75 feet.
no, the Marina Park project.
Oh, the Marina Park project. I'm sorry.
385, is that right?
I think it's around 385. Yeah.
Yeah, it's extremely tall, and it is in a part of the city that has other tall buildings, but it is quite tall. Let's see what other questions we have. Somebody asked about the Marina Park project. Despite the issues about wording of the question, does the potential revenue outweigh the concerns about the wording of the question? Saul, do you want to address that?
Yeah, I don't think the potential revenue is the issue. I think the issue is that the voters are supposed to vote on improving an increase in the FAR. And in this case, the FAR increase results in 63,750 square feet of additional building. The value of an additional buildable square footage in the luxury condo, I'm sure, is at least $1,000 a foot. So just the extra FAR alone is probably worth $63 million. But that's not an issue that we analyzed, and the city has always said that they would hire professionals to estimate the true added value from increased FAR. The idea that a 1 acre park is going to be built as the public benefit, which is basically in a close proximity to South Point Park, which is, I think, a 25 acre park. I'm not sure that that's necessarily the right public amenity in addition, but we're not reaching any of those questions. Our position on this is strictly based on the fact that the commission is not putting this question, or the developer is not putting this question on the ballot for the FAR to be determined by the voters as required by the charter.
So I'm going to ask you to take the next question as well. It's a bit of a process question. Somebody is asking why there was no competitive bidding for this particular project. According to the commission meeting minutes from July 29th, the commission waived the requirement 7-0 vote because it was in the best interest of the public. Can you, as a former commissioner, explain why that might be? And again, not the merits of this particular project, but just the process.
Well, I mean, there's two ways that projects get built in the city. One is by the city issuing a request for proposals, which they often do. For example, they did that for city property at the Byron Carlisle, and they got, I think, 3, which got whittled down to 1 response. In this case, I think it was an unsolicited bid, and the city had the option, if they wanted to put the package out for a bid, and open it up to competitive bidding, but they chose not to do that. That said, David Martin is certainly one of the finest developers active in Miami Beach and has built quality projects. So I don't have any problem at all with the quality of the developer who is going to be building this project. But that, again, is not the issue. Whether the commission should have put it out to competitive bidding, again, I think that in this circumstance, that's probably more of a political question than it is a charter question or a city regulation question. The city does have the power on a supermajority vote of the commission to waive competitive bidding on a project like this, and I think that's what they did.
Okay, thank you. We have another question concerning the article in the Herald recently about the Wilsonian project mentioned a bakery that's just close to the Wilsonian on the same block and will now have to find a new home. And the question is, are there any provisions being made for them? Is there a possibility that the bakery can become the Wilsonian coffee shop? Valid questions. My recollection was that it's a fairly new business. This is not going to happen tomorrow. There are going to be a few years between when this passes, if it passes, and when the project gets underway. And I'm sure that the developers will work with the neighbors to find ways to work together, and they'll have plenty of time to, the businesses will have plenty of time to find new places to operate. So hopefully it'll be a win-win for everybody. We have a couple more questions coming. Let's see. On question 6, what is the standard definition of FAR used in the other cities? How do the other cities' definitions match up with the proposed ballot question? So
That's a tough one. Number 6.
Probably a good one for you. I think FAR is FAR. It's kind of a planning tool that is used by urban planners and developers and city officials universally in the United States.
Right, but I think the question maybe is aiming at ballot question number 6.
Yes.
You know, which is what are the components of the FAR determination? I would venture to say probably no two cities have exactly the same definition of what constitutes FAR. I would say that Miami Beach in general, over the last 25 years, has been conservative in the way in which they define FAR. You know, since maybe 1985, cities wanted to engage in smart and controlled growth, and so has not liberalized its FAR policy or the language of the FAR in the statute. But lately, the commission has become more liberal in wanting to grant additional FAR to projects, as can be seen from the vacating of roadways that are adjacent to projects to allow an increase in FAR. And I think that this question number 6 is in line with that attempt to liberalize FAR and increase development in the city. I think the old-time residents in general are less open to FAR increases unless maybe they're for cultural or not-for-profit reasons, but not necessarily for private development. And some of the newer commissioners and newer residents don't feel the same way. And so I think there's a give and take that's going on between the old guard and the new guard. And, you know, it's a question of what individual residents of the beach think is in the city's best long-term interest as far as cultivating and maintaining its brand as a low-rise, at least on the interior, architecturally special district. And many feel that the increases in height and FAR might have the possibility of overwhelming the historic character of the district, which would fight against the mayor's initiative currently underway to focus on cultural and historic preservation attributes and unique characteristics of our district.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. Sometimes people say that Miami Beach United is anti-development, and that is definitely not the case. We are very interested in development which really embraces the character of place and that adds, you know, restores and reuses, adaptively reuses existing buildings and really builds on the magic that's Miami Beach. I mean, from an architectural and real estate perspective, one of the really unique things about this tiny little city is that you can have a tour of architecture that goes, you know, through the decades almost. And that's a rare treat. And, you know, we want to make sure that we can encourage new thoughtful development that takes into account the kind of city that they're building in and takes into account the heritage of the city and the resilience issues that we're all going to be facing. And that one new project doesn't bend the rules just to suit their particular vision and overwhelm the neighborhood in which they're building. So that's the balance we're trying to strive for and to encourage people to think about when they're putting together proposals.
Yeah, let me just say one more thing about that, though. The projects that are being presented for increased FAR are mostly waterfront projects around the perimeter of the beach. You know, that was the case with Ocean Terrace. That is the case with Marina Park. And the place for high rises in general in Miami Beach has been around the perimeter on the waterfront. And MBU is certainly not opposed to, you know, high rises on the waterfront. I mean, that's one of the fabulous amenities of Miami Beach that high-rise living allows a lot of residents to enjoy. And in fact, we've had a large influx of high net worth individuals from New York in the hedge fund industry who are inundating Miami Beach and looking for places to live. And, you know, there's very high demand, and we certainly want to encourage that. We think those are great residents. It would be a nice addition to the family of Miami Beach residents. You know, ordinances that are more general than that, which could affect the historic district, like ballot question 6, we do look at more carefully. And in this case, you know, for new buildings or for renovations, it had the possibility to start changing the character. And whereas ballot question number 4, MBU felt that it created a better balance and was limited to historic buildings. And so that one we're in favor of. So some we were in favor of and some we weren't in favor of. But you can't paint it with a broad brush and say that any particular kind of project we're not in favor of. We do appreciate the benefit and value of high-rise waterfront projects and adding to the cachet and allure and attractiveness of condos for high net worth individuals to live in. We do want to encourage affordable housing, and I know that that was a component of how the city said it was going to spend the $55 million that it was going to be getting for the waterfront project at Marina Park. But I think that that was more of an attempt to try and encourage support for the ballot question rather than a genuine effort to achieve any kind of workforce housing. There have been ample opportunities over the last 20 years to do that. And the number of projects that have been built in that regard are very, very small. So hopefully some of that will happen as we move forward. Next question.
I keep forgetting that I'm muting myself because I have a very old dog who's making very weird noises. And I didn't think everybody needed to hear that. We have a question. We're not going to get into the specifics of this particular, but it's kind of a pattern that we see repeated where projects come before the city and get pretty far along before some neighbors or residents hear about it. Somebody was raising a concern about, you know, there are only 2 public meetings about the proposed Marina Park project, and it feels to this resident that it may have been rushed. So not talking about this project in particular, but the process in general, it is a little bit complicated to follow along in the city, how things go from a twinkle in somebody's eye, hey, I have a great idea, let me see if we can make this happen, to a project that is, you know, bricks and mortar in a neighborhood. But that is really one of the founding purposes of Miami Beach United, is to help residents learn about the processes, how to reach out to their elected officials, how to make their voices heard. I encourage you to check out our website. We have links to the city's website. If you don't know the city's website, it's miamibeachfl.gov. And there you can find all sorts of useful information, like how to reach your commissioners, how to reach heads of departments. They're very open to emails and phone calls if you have concerns. If you want to share your thoughts on how a process for a particular project has gone or not gone to your satisfaction, you know, they all work for all of us. So you've got to give them feedback on how things are going, in your opinion. One of the things you can do, in 2017, Miami Beach United championed a concept called Residents' Right to Know. It is now an ordinance on the books in the city of Miami Beach. And basically, the function of that particular ordinance is to hold the city accountable for letting residents know about projects that are coming up in their neighborhood and around the city. And there are lots of different ways that you can you as a resident in Miami Beach can get informed. You can obviously go onto the city website and check out the commission meeting agendas or the land use or the neighborhood meeting agendas as they're published. You can go to the city's website, to the city clerk page, and then look at the agendas, and they get published typically 3 or 4 days before the meeting is scheduled. But you can also go onto the city's website. We have links to it specifically on our website. If you go to miamibeachunited.org and you go to the Residents' Right to Know page, that will explain all about the ordinance and give you links directly so that you can sign up for as many alerts as you are interested in. If you want to hear about North Beach, Mid Beach, South Beach, all of the beaches, you know, things that affect waterways, things that affect sewers and resiliency. I mean, you can really customize it to be alerted about all sorts of different issues. And that is a direct result of this Residents' Right to Know ordinance that we got passed in 2017. So it took a little while for it to get going, but it's a really great tool, and it will definitely help you stay abreast of what's going on. There's always a lot going on in this city, even, you know, as our hands are all collectively full trying to navigate safely through these uncertain times and make sure everybody's doing as well as they can. There's still a lot going on through the city. So really encourage you to explore those pages, sign up for alerts, reach out to your elected officials, ask them questions. They're happy to chat, and if they don't know answers, if they don't have the bandwidth, they can definitely direct you to people who can. It is remarkable. I've lived all over the world and all over this country, and it's really remarkable how much access we have to our elected officials and our staff, and that is something that we should take full advantage of. Okay, let's see if we have any more questions. Again, about the city charter specifying that the commission needs to produce an analysis of the project. I believe that has been done for the Marina Park project. And I'm quite sure that if you ask the city for it, you can get access to it. A good place to start for that, if you didn't want to reach out to a commissioner directly, would be going to the city clerk. Calling the city clerk and asking how best to find that. It's I'm sure it's filed into the public records that you can probably download from one of the agendas at which this topic has been discussed. Let's see what else we have. Okay. I think, unless I'm mistaken, that is it for questions.
That is it. Tanya, may I add something?
Please, yes.
Okay, so I just want our viewers, listeners to know that on October 3rd, Miami Beach United launched a partnership initiative. And this is another way for everyone, our residents and neighbors, to get involved in the community. And so I want to ask everyone to please keep an eye out for it, or go to our website and look for it, where you can sign up to volunteer in exchange for a free membership for Miami Beach United. We are working with some really great organizations, including the League of Women Voters, Volunteer Miami, which is a United Way program, and Feeding South Florida. So if anyone out there is looking for ways to get involved, to, you know, in exchange for their time and effort, also receive a free 1-year membership to MBU so that they can remain informed on these very important community issues, please take a look and sign up, and we'd be more than happy to have you join us. Thank you.
And normally, when we're not all, you know, socially distancing for months at a time, we, in addition to doing our monthly newsletters and other positions on things going to land use committee or neighborhood committee, we also do forums on topics of interest, you know, resiliency or reinventing Ocean Drive, or, you know, all sorts of different interesting topics that happen in person at the Women's Club of Miami Beach, which is a beautiful restored venue on Pine Tree. But we also have at least 2 social events a year, which are at cool venues around the city, and you meet and mingle and have a couple of drinks and have some snacks and get to know new places around the city and get to meet neighbors who you might not have known before who are equally interested in, you know, keeping their finger on the pulse of what's happening in Miami Beach. So we would love to have you join us. And again, as Raquel said, it carries through to the end of 2021. We do have one more question, which is a love to hate it kind of question. The tow contract. The question is, what is going on with the tow contract? Very briefly, I will say that Miami Beach United is doing two initiatives proactively rather than responding to things that are being brought up at commission or other city meetings. One is about the process in general, and we'll actually be launching that in the next week or so. You'll be able to read all about that. But also another one is about the tow contract and how to improve it for residents and visitors to Miami Beach. So that is deep in the middle of being finalized, and we hope to have that going public in the next week or two as well. So stay tuned. Let's see, another question just popped up. Okay, so again, for those of you who may not be familiar with Miami Beach United prior to this event, I thank you for joining us. Again, we are here to connect residents with City Hall, going in both directions, help residents navigate City Hall so they can get the answers they need and want and get engaged in projects that matter to them so their voices are heard. And we love the fact that that there's so many questions about all the things that are going on. We encourage you to reach out to us. You can go to our website at miamibeachunited.org. There's a contact us form. Your emails will come directly into our inbox. And you can also sign up for newsletters, which are absolutely free. Those come out in advance of every commission meeting every month. We do not share your email address. We don't rent the list, so it is secure. And check out the pages. We've got archives of different resolutions that we've sent out. We have, sorry, I'm losing my capability of speaking words. We have, like I said, events going on. We have the whole page of Residents' Rights to Know, which will give you a lot of information about what that was and how to access those tools, which I really highly encourage. We have one more question that popped up. Somebody asked us to summarize, please. I encourage you to go to the miamibeachunited.org page. If you look at the tab that says current newsletters, you will see there the ballot initiative positions, and you will see everything that we talked about here today written out. So you can find that on our website. And then once we publish our resolutions for this week's commission meeting, that document will now then move over to our archived newsletters. So it's either, if you look at it today, it'll be in our current newsletter page. And if you look at it tomorrow, it will be on our archived newsletter page. And I will also make sure it's pinned to the top of our Facebook page so that if you go onto Miami Beach United's Facebook page, you'll be able to see it there as well. But again, I really encourage everybody to sign up for the newsletter if you're not already receiving it. It's chock full of good information. Thank you all very much for coming out. I really appreciate it. And thank you for being so patient with our technical hiccups. You were very generous to not blast us for it. So take care, be safe, don't forget to vote, and we will see you on the flip side.